Many customers have been asking us how they migrate and modernize their SAP systems using AWS native services. Once on the cloud, they want to understand how they can extend their business processes using innovative services such as AI/ML to unlock value for their business. If you are one of those customers, you're in the right session. My name is Joe Currid, and I'm a Principal Solution Architect for SAP here at AWS. Today, I have the pleasure of co-presenting with the Ericsson team, who are going to take us through their migration and modernization story on AWS. We'll be hearing from Johan Spora, VP of IT Cloud Services, and Richard Wieselfors, VP of Automation and AI. In today's session, we're going to be looking at why customers are modernizing their SAP environments and doing so with AWS. We'll then turn over to Johan, who's going to take us through the Ericsson migration and modernization story. He'll take us through the steps his organization followed, and also some of the learnings they had along the way. Richard will then take the stage and explain how he's led an initiative to embrace intelligent automation and AI on top of the foundation of SAP running on AWS. And he will show some impactful use cases around supply planning and transportation management processes. And from there, I'll briefly touch on some of the AWS services that you can use to follow in the footsteps of innovators like Ericsson. And then at the end, we'll have time for some Q&A. So working with thousands of customers like yourself, we understand there's a wide array of internal and external challenges, and you are seeking solutions to better your business. You may be driven by compelling events like cost objectives, data center exits, M&A activities, or end of life for your hardware and software. In addition to these urgent drivers, you may be strategizing on how to transform your business and remain competitive in the market. The conversation is changing. Customers expect more than just cost savings and efficiency. They want to move faster, make better data-driven decisions, and transform customer experience. They want to deliver digital transformation and modernize businesses. They want to reinvest cost saving to drive innovations and new business models. And you will see some of these drivers today in the Ericsson journey, which Johan and Richard will take us through. And taking advantage of the AWS cloud to run mission-critical workloads like SAP has been an effective way to address these challenges and achieve these aims. It provides performance improvement, cost saving, improved reliability, security posture, and agility. So customers who address these challenges and accelerate their business transformation typically follow the following stages. First, they run their SAP workloads on the cloud, benefiting from that performance improvement, reliability, cost saving, and agility. Customers then have the option of which path they choose to migrate. They can simplify their journey to S/4HANA by adopting an integrated solution like RISE with SAP, or they can migrate an existing SAP system from their on-premise data center. Either way, AWS has been running SAP workloads in the cloud for over 15 plus years. And customers are able to leverage our extensive APN partner network, training, purpose-built tools, and even funding. It's all designed to help you make the shift in a way that minimizes disruption and get you back to managing your business, not your migration. Once in the cloud, customers have the opportunity to unlock the value of their data and deliver new business insights. Often this begins by adopting an approach of combining SAP and non-SAP data. And this gives you a true 360-degree view of your customer and business process. Once unified, democratizing access to analytics and delivering insights to users where they can make better decisions is possible. And today, we have over 200,000 data lakes running on AWS. And lastly, customers who follow these steps can innovate faster and transform their business. Customers have a real opportunity to use the added agility and innovative services from AWS and SAP to transform their business. They can extend processes into other systems, create custom applications, and optimize core business processes, all while keeping the core clean. You'll see shortly how using some of these 200+ services, including cutting-edge technologies like AI/ML, can really have a transformative effect on your business. We've been helping thousands of customers on this transformation journey across numerous industries. We're fortunate enough today to hear from leaders from one of those customers, Ericsson. And their transformation journey really embodies what it means to migrate and modernize an SAP landscape. And I'll play a brief video before welcoming Johan on stage.
Often when I talk with peers in other companies, we discuss the speed of technology. It's an ever-increasing speed of technology that we're facing as technology leaders. And one of the important part that we play as technology leaders are to demystify new technology. Sometimes we face technology that are known, like cloud, ML, IoT accelerators, and sometimes the technology that we are facing are more novel, creating a lack of understanding of the structures, lack of talent, lack of how to implement and how to actually scale these type of technologies. And I think it's, as leaders, it's our job to demystify the technology, finding the one or two or three applications that we can rally our employees around and really do proof of concept and then scale and then implement as a run into the business and really create value and unlock some of these technology promises. So our view is that the speed of technology is ever increasing and also the benefit and opportunity of technology is ever increasing. It is crucial that we provide this guidance to our employees on how to use the technology and how to adopt new technologies. The question that we find often is how to really leverage the community of our employees and really get them to embrace and adopt the technology. I'm a firm believer that the companies that actually enables our employees to adopt technologies the fastest are the winner in the market. So the transformation is not about technology, it's really a people-centric transformation that we're facing. So our vision for the IT transformation was we really needed to exit our data centers. We needed to change our entire ways of working to enable the cloud benefits that we could see of the implementing the new technology. We really needed to prioritize our transformation, and we really need to harness the power of automation. It's about setting clear and ambitious goals, quantifying objectives that really reflects our commitment to move into these technologies that set the transformation apart. In Ericsson, we set a brave target at the time. We said 80% of our compute would move to cloud. And with setting that type of high target and ambition, we tipped the scale of which culture would actually prevail. So we had to transform our culture, learning the new ways of working. We then embraced the product-centric, agile, and DevOps mindset in the organization that enabled us to adopt the technology much faster. In our adoption strategy, our organization change was adopted an incremental change. So we view this through the lens of a product and product portfolio, allowing us to be more flexible and responsive in our operations. So we could actually move and build the platforms with a product mindset, doing changes stepwise. So that enables us to really launch innovations, try and do errors, and then quickly recover. So as we look into our aim, we aimed at moving 80%. We are now at 90%. When we set the target, people told me it's impossible to move 80%. This is 4 years ago. They said 50% is an ambitious target. I think I was told as well, I couldn't do lift and shift. Lift and shift would be expensive, it wouldn't work. We did a lift and shift, and we actually cut the cost with 20% below the business case that we looked at. So it's doable. In our transformation, we really needed to set up a factory that worked. So we established a big factory that actually focused on enabling in the product organizations to really take a decision within the factory. Often we encounter outdated processes, directives, or policies that is blocking the technical transformation. So the advice is to really try and keep the decisions within the factory as you migrate. The duration of the program was 18 months, from covering detailed solution design, technical foundation, and then migration to AWS. We had the time constraint of leaving the data center, which really forced us to do a lift and shift. We then migrated about 50 applications in SAP. About 600 AWS instances was deployed. The migration was divided into 5 subdivided waves, grouped per application area: technology systems, SAP ERP, analytics, sourcing, CRM. Within each of the wave, we actually learned, because we moved first development, then queue, and then production. So this way, we actually adopted a way of learning as we moved. And we also focused a lot on automation. So as we moved from development to quality, we could actually adjust our automation scripts. We could trim the way we actually deployed the solutions. And as such, we minimized the impact of business. The incumbent vendor and operational service provider was responsible for testing and integration. We had weekly stakeholders that gathered all involved parties, where we actually focused on blockers and releasing some of these processes or directives that could actually be cumbersome for the factory to manage. This is the architecture for SAP applications on HANA databases. It's a multi-availability zone and a single region architecture. When we consider the future design, we had some firm principles that we can see. We followed AWS architecture best practices. We deployed SAP system focusing on high availability and reliability. We established a clear design on clustering and redundancy, implementing cluster and redundancy for SAP components such as SAP, ACS, ERS, and NetWeaver and SAP HANA databases to eliminate single point of failures. We utilized AWS availability zones to achieve a high availability, and SAP systems distributed across 3 multiple availability zones that actually then physically segregated the data centers with the redundant infrastructure. We used Lemongrass as a cloud-native partner to leverage their automation structure capital to actually move this migration much faster. Benefits and migrations. So what happened was, after the migration, we had a program meeting, and to this program meeting, one of the financial direct reports to the CFO came down, and he said, next week, when you migrate the entire systems, I want regular updates. And for us, that was the best grade we could actually have, because he actually missed that we've actually migrated the system the weekend before. So it was super seamless. And that cup of coffee I will remember for the entire life. And the migration was super complex. We had 300 people working 24/7 across the globe in different areas. They were booked into different hotels, and it was a minute-by-minute planning. So we had people dialing 5 minutes before they were due to do a change, and then confirming that they were up and running. And at the end, we knew that if this system that we moved this weekend would fail, it would be a top-line impact, and it would impact the stock. So the pressure was super high for the team. So now I will hand over to Rickard to take us through the transformation powered by automation and AI.
Thanks a lot. So I'm Richard Wieselfors, and I'm heading up Enterprise Automation and AI. And my purpose and the purpose of my team is to radically transform Ericsson through intelligent automation and AI. And what I will focus on is how do we use this great technology Johan and his team has put in place in reality. First, a bit of a background to what we're doing. So we have for many years invested in exponential technologies like machine learning, blockchain, low-code, RPA, and combining that with an AI-led transformation approach. And the reason why we're doing that is that we see that we can get a factor 10 improvement in customer outcomes and business outcomes and customer experience. We're also using this technology to learn from internal and then develop products and services which we can use to sell. However, this is quite difficult, and we did a survey 2.5 years ago where we asked 2,500 decision makers on how they are scaling intelligent automation and AI. And 99% said that they had problems getting away from the POC stage, and they only and weren't able to scale. I don't know if that's still relevant, but when I meet companies, I see a lot of POCs when it is about machine learning and AI, and a lot of talk I see as well. And one of the key factors here is, of course, that they don't have a scalable platform. The way I see it, we worked with this since 2016. We have 300 solutions live across the whole company, basically. But still, I only think we are in the beginning of this exponential journey. But we have still got some recognition. For example, just a couple of months ago, Gartner named us as one of the leaders in what they called a Gartner Hyper Automation 100 Club. And that is the companies who has the proven highest value when it comes from intelligent automation and AI, or hyper automation as they call it. Also, World Economic Forum recognized as leaders when it comes to Industry 4.0. And we have got something called a Global Lighthouse for our 5G factory in Louisville outside Dallas, where we used a lot of our intelligent automation and AI capabilities. So then if we start to, how have we been able to scale 300 solutions? And one of the key factors is to have a scalable platform. And here the partnership with AWS has been great. So what we did, we put together an AI/ML platform. We call it AMP. It's using SageMaker technology as a basis, and also Lambda and some other things. And this could be mainly explained through 3 major themes, you can say. So you have enablers at the highest level, and that's very much about making sure that you can scale solutions. The second one is around operational excellence. That is about maintaining the solutions and make sure that you also link it into our API structure and the digital infrastructure of Ericsson. And the last theme is security by design. We have for many years worked with responsible AI, and we have a very strong framework for responsible AI. And what the AMP does, it sort of forces our developers to follow our responsible AI practices by having built-in responsible AI in the different phases of the development cycle. And a quick look about in the infrastructure or the architecture. And the architecture is based on the 4 different phases we have when we develop machine learning. It's about link to experimentation, then it comes training, validation, and deployment. And one key thing about this is that this architecture enables the fusion team way of working the way we're working. So both the platform team can look at the models as well as the different business people. And that is a very strong feature of this AI/ML platform. So some examples of use cases we have delivered. And as I said before, we've done 300 solutions, and they are basically addressing customer experience. And customer experience, what that is about, is very much to let our salespeople to be able to put time with our customers instead of a lot of administration. Employee experience, we want our employees to have the same experience at Ericsson as they have, for example, if they do shopping on Amazon.com, for example. The third area we are addressing is responsible business. And in that, we have 2 major things. It's sustainability and it's compliance. And there is one case which I'm mentioning here, which is about transport planning, which I will deep dive a bit on. And then the last thing we are addressing by our solutions, that is efficiencies. And that's basically cost out. And if you look to intelligent automation and AI, there's a huge opportunities in all companies for doing cost out and efficiency. So let me start with one case, and then I go over to the transport planning case. And here, the problem we had was matching basically the demand and supply. We had difficult to get visibility, what we needed to produce in our factories, and for the teams to have visibility and to be able to have a data-driven decision-making. So we put in place a solution that utilizes both machine learning, but also low-code. And it's now used for 82% of the Ericsson hardware portfolio. And it has several impacts on, for example, the scrap levels, inventory levels, etc. So what value has this created? So it's increased the forecast reliability with about 50%, which is quite amazing for the last 29 months. The value of reduced inventory levels, reduced scrap levels, and reduced transport planning or utilizing the right transport facilities has created a value of around $50 million. And the increase of transparency during the whole supply chain has been also fundamental and really changed the culture and the way we are working. So that is one great case where we're using the AI/ML platform. And the second case, it's linking then to transport planning. And what is the problem here? Yeah, the problem here that we had difficulty to have visibility more than 5 days for ordering different transports. As you know, we are working in 180 countries. There is a lot of transportation of our products. By putting this is a machine learning solution in place. We have increased the visibility quite a lot. And the effects of that makes it easier. We do sort of RFPs every second week on transportation, if we're going to have flights or shipping by boats, etc. And by doing that, we achieve much better choice of transportation. That means that we don't need to use a plane when we can use a boat. and that has given savings of $4 million. But even more importantly, what this is addressing is our targets towards net zero. Of course, there is a huge impact on CO2 emissions if we're using the right transportation, and also improved lead times. So that was a quick summary of how we have used the cloud to build an AI/ML platform, and some examples of use cases in this area. So please, Johan, over to you again to summarize.
Thank you. So what did we take away as learnings then in the SAP migration and in that remit? So the focus that, or the learnings that we have and the focus that I would recommend people to have is the selection of partner. When you go from a traditional IT infrastructure, you have a certain set of partners, but we recommend that you think about the capabilities that the partner have. And we would recommend to say, if you're migrating your SAP workloads to cloud, the partner should have a demonstrated capability and knowledge in both domains in the same person. So the people working on it should know AWS Cloud and SAP at the same time. Then you can leverage the most. I think also when you look at how these migrations can be done, you need to look at what assets you need to invest in. And to get the stable migration and also stable operations in the end, automation is a key word. If you can go to zero manual deployment, I think that should be your target. That gives you the ability to, when you move from test or quality to production, you can develop your scripts and you can tweak and you can reduce the exposure of the change and the change windows to the business. It's a win-win. Also, as you migrate SAP to the cloud, you're not the first company, right? So this is not the type of case that we talked about where the structure is unknown or skills is scarce, or this is where there's actually a best practice. And my advice is follow best practice. It's been tested thousands of times. And every company says we're so special, but I bet you're not really in this sense. So trust the team, trust the plan. And I think that's what will make you successful in your SAP migration to cloud. Thank you.
Thanks, Johan and Rickard. That's a really compelling story about how to transform your SAP landscape, and once there, use the benefits of the cloud on top. So before we look at the capabilities AWS provides to innovate, we'll look at some of the requirements, the common themes we see at customers who've been through a successful transformation journey. The first being reimagining their business processes. Customers want to move away from brittle systems burdened with legacy customization. They want to adopt industry standard best practice, and they want to do this by adopting a clean core approach to their ERP transformation. Secondly, they want to unlock new insights with data and analytics. Customers want to break down data silos, provide users with the insights they need to make better, more informed decisions, and they want to employ powerful AI ML models to provide predictive and prescriptive actions. And thirdly, customers want to develop a culture of innovation. They want to empower their creators with purpose-built tools. They want to enable their teams to extend their SAP system in innovative ways without risking the core. And customers address this challenge by adopting a clean core approach. This is our vision for the SAP Clean Core, co-developed with SAP. So rather than customizing at the application level, customers extend their systems at a higher level by integrating into the 200 plus AWS native services and the 80 plus SAP BTP services which run on AWS. So this enables customers to innovate faster with more freedom and deliver value for their business. So customers have access to the 200 plus native services on AWS to fuel their modernization journey. This is significantly more services and with more feature depth than any other cloud provider. From the infrastructure technologies like compute, storage, and database to the innovative and emerging technologies such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, data lakes, and analytics. And this makes it faster, easier, and more cost-effective to innovate and extend your SAP system. We've seen from the Ericsson story how they use services like SageMaker and data lakes to deliver rich insights for their business. Now, with the AWS SDK for SAP ABAP, you can tap directly into the innovation potential of these 200 plus services directly from your SAP system. The SDK makes it easy for ABAP developers to extend and transform their SAP-based business processes by harnessing the power of AWS native services directly from SAP ABAP. So that with the SDK, you can accelerate process innovation by harnessing those 200 plus services. It reduces architectural complexity, so you don't have to manually configure complex integrations between SAP and AWS services. And it's done in a secure way, so all payloads are encrypted, and it enforces the SAP permissions also. And it also fosters that culture of innovation. So it upskills your SAP ABAP developers and lets them use and upskill in the 200 plus cloud services available. Now the SDK provides access to the entire set of AWS services. So you can access the same AI ML capabilities that are helping over 100,000 customers today innovate within their businesses. And with these capabilities, you can follow in the footsteps of innovators like Ericsson and use AI ML in conjunction with SAP to reimagine your core business process. And nowhere is the promise of AI ML in business transformation more exciting than that of generative AI. So this enables you, AWS recently launched Bedrock, and this is now available with the AWS SDK for SAP ABAP. This enables you to bring the power of generative AI to your SAP business processes using the SAP ABAP language. Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service with a range of powerful foundational models from companies like Anthropic, Meta, Stability AI, and Amazon's own Titan model. And this enables customers to quickly experiment with these foundational models and integrate them into their applications with the familiar AWS tools and services. And we've already seen customers innovate with this in our regular ABAP hackathons, you may have seen on LinkedIn. And we also have developed use cases internally around DevOps, BTP development, improvements to sales and OTC processes, and integrating generative BI into SAP Analytics. So not only do we have the 200 plus native services which you can use, we also have 80 plus SAP BTP services available on AWS. And these are powerful innovation services from SAP, which you can also use to adopt a clean core approach. So we have more BTP services running on AWS than any other cloud provider, as you can see from the graphic. And we have 19 services which exclusively run on AWS. And they include some powerful services like Build Apps and AI Core, which run exclusively on AWS. And we have SAP have developed 100% of the new BTP services in 2022 on AWS versus 33% for the next cloud provider. And you can also use Private Link, which enables direct or encrypted access from the BTP services to your select AWS services, so to meet your security and compliance requirements. So no matter which direction you take, AWS has you covered with the with these BTP services running on AWS. So in closing, we want to thank our speakers from Ericsson for sharing their story with us today. So reflecting on their story, they've embodied what it means to modernize their SAP environment and transform their business. The learnings we have seen are common to a lot of successful companies who have been on a similar journey. So they are setting a vision for your team for what it means to be a world-class enterprise, establishing your SAP landscape in the cloud to benefit from the scalability, performance, cost saving, and agility and extensibility it provides. And finally, creating a culture of innovation and a foundation for ongoing development, leveraging the best-in-class cloud services to innovate faster and transform your business. And of course, to choose the cloud provider which has helped deliver the same transformation journey for thousands of customers over the 15 plus years we've been supporting SAP workloads in the cloud. So I'll just touch on a few more slides and then we'll have the Q&A. So I'd like to just point you to some of the workshops that we have for RISE best practices, some discovery workshops, and our team would love to meet with you and discuss the best way for you to modernize your business. So you can sign up for those workshops through the QR codes. Also, I'd like to point to some of the other sessions which are happening this week on the SAP track and highlight ENT225. So why industry leaders choose AWS for RISE with SAP. That's on Wednesday. And join us on Thursday for ENT229, which is using AWS services, RISE with SAP, and BTP to innovate faster. And then we'd also like to point you to the what's new for AWS for SAP. So you can keep track of the new announcements which are coming out for SAP. And a link to that page is provided. And then finally, be sure to visit us at the Enterprise Workloads Kiosk at the AWS Village in the Venetian. So you'll be able to speak to an expert there and learn how to modernize your enterprise workloads, not just for SAP, but Microsoft, VMware, and mainframe. So with that, we'd like to thank you for attending the session. And we have Marcus in the crowd who will be moderating the Q&A.